Yeah, I suppose it's difficult with trust in the way, particularly when you're doing international, right? Because you've got the nuances of different markets, different rules, different regulations. How do you? I suppose one of the things is how do you ensure that trust? Because it's all well and good, we might have trusted sources in the UK, but if you're in Spain, how do you tap into those trusted sources? What's the kind of that key, I suppose, and making sure that they've seen your campaign. Actually, we're trusted into this if you're in Italy, Austria, or other markets, but it's come from the UK. I suppose that also becomes a thing that you've really got to kind of emphasise from this perspective, that it's real, because again, there's so much content that is fake out there.
We're lucky in that we're a global brand, I think. And we are one of the most trusted brands in the world, often cited as such. So the trust issue's super important to us. It means we can be quite cautious sometimes in what we do. But in terms of provenance of this is from Visa, we are a trusted brand, so people would take that a bit more as read when they see us show up. And Alex and I were speaking earlier as well. The most important thing that we're being transparent as possible, where we do use those tools or not. We created an AI influencer recently, and just being really transparent about that up front to everyone. I think that's the important thing. And then people can pick and choose whether they like it or not, but they know that you're being authentic with it. Yeah.
I think that's so important, because I think people are so savvy and consumers are so savvy, and they're becoming even more savvy. It's sort of the exponential curve of sort of clued up around AI and savviness to these things continues. And I think to your question, Jeremy, around specific markets like Spain, for example, I think from an agency perspective, it's ensuring that the tools that we are using are focused in terms of how we can evaluate where that trust might be. But also leaning on that human expertise that we talked about, making sure that we are tapping into local markets, tapping into individuals to understand what that nuance is, because these points around savviness and how things are interpreted, or the diminishing of trust, varies between market as well. So having your ear close to the ground to ensure that we're reacting in the correct manner is so important.
Mm-hmm. I suppose one thing I've always wanted to ask is there if you had to provide a cheat sheet to creating a good international campaign that will create the desired impact or even do better than what the objectives were, what would you include in that? What would you include to make it a success?
Probably the number one top of the list would be collaboration and making sure you involve and you listen and you take the insight from all your partners in whichever market that you're working in, and then you're involving them along every step of the process and along the way. I think that applies to the campaign generally as well, just taking the feedback and listening to the feedback that you're getting from consumers or the interactions that you're seeing, and then iterating on top of that. Super important. Third thing I'd call out, it's so easy, I see it all the time, so easy to lose sight of your original objective when you're developing campaigns, especially multi-market campaigns. I think we were really focused on the original objective is we see a lot of hateful messaging towards women's football. We want to try and make an impact to reduce that. Yeah, and that's what we did. And we measured it and everything. It's you can sometimes, just with all the metrics that you've got around awareness, engagement, reach, etc., you can sometimes lose sight of that. Yes. And so we were just conscious to always make sure we came back to what are we trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think it's a balance. It's about having that vision from the off, having that clear concept, which I think is so important if you're operating across multi-markets as we were, making sure that the concept is streamlined, clear, and can be followed in terms of how local markets are executing, so that we're continuing to push from a messaging perspective and driving action perspective. But at the same time, there needs to be that balance of flexibility. As Rob said, we need to, it's really important that there was a process of iterating with what we were doing ensuring that we were listening to local markets in certain ways, making sure that there was that nuanced tweak to how we did show up in Spain, in France, in Italy, to make sure that we still had that resonance to the local market, but staying true to what our core objective was.
Other thing I'd add, just having thought about it a little bit longer while Alex was talking, was like having insight right at the heart of it as well, right? Having a deep cultural insight, something that's true and real in market. That's key to any campaign.
And I was going to have a shameless M&M plug, and so you in particular, Rob, you've been on a jury panel.
Yes.
I was going to say to you, if you were on the other side and submitting like you did into M&M Global, what would you make sure? What would be the key thing that you would do with your submission to ensure that you caught the judge's attention?
The thing that I find funny about being on like awards panels is I would always be like, did it work? Did it achieve like what we were just talking about? Did it achieve what it set out to do? Like that has the most weight for me. And sometimes it's a thing that gets talked about least, like when you're in the judging room. I'm not saying to people don't do it, because for me that's the most important thing, and I don't think it really ever makes a shortlist unless it does do that in some way. But yeah, that's what I would definitely focus on, is like, get your story, get your narrative right, because it's like judges have to read like hundreds of cases quite often, and you know, some of them can be quite long. And so if you can get the narrative just right, so it's an easy to read award submission that has like, this is the challenge that we were trying to do, and this is what we did, and this was the outcome. It just flows really nice. So just pay attention to that kind of storytelling in your submission. I think that goes quite a long way as well.
Can we expect another iteration of this campaign after the success of it, or where do you go next?
It's a great question. I'm not sure. Is the best way to answer that. It's not job done, right? As in like that challenge that we were facing into. So yes, maybe we would go again. I don't know. At the moment, we're focusing on some other things at the minute. Like there's a lot going on at Visa, and so it's not that it's not important, but it's just it's probably just something that isn't fully on the radar at the moment. Yeah.
Do you want to share anything about your plans for the upcoming World Cup?
Yeah, so we're clearly really focused on that at the minute, which is, you know, maybe one reason why we haven't dialed up what we've been doing in pep talks into a year 2 and year 3. So we're really focused on that this summer. We've got some really exciting plans. I can't talk about it too much, but we think it's going to be really culturally relevant. It's going to be really integral to the Visa brand, is really ingrained and central to it. And I think people are going to have a lot of fun with it, and hopefully it'll stand out against all the other sponsors and anyone else activating over the World Cup. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Absolutely fantastic to spend the afternoon with you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, Kirsty.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank
really
you very much,
good,
Jeremy.
Really
Thank you
enjoyed
for having us.
Great.
Thank you for the award.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. We should have brought the trophy again.
I should have done this back in the office. Yeah.